Hi, everybody. Cheers. Um, Today marks my 48th trip around the sun, and my wife did something very special for me. Through much humming and hawing about my genetic makeup and my lineage, she got me the Ancestry DNA kit for my birthday. You see, there's some questions about my surname and where it comes from and what it is. Now, we know that the Kyriazis name is Greek, and I don't think I am. Without getting into too much detail, there's been much chatter in my little family. I really don't want to get into that. Needless to say, I've never met any nearly 6 feet, blue-eyed, dishwater blonde Greeks. Right? So, my mother's mother, who I miss every day and love dearly, her maiden name was Edwards, which is very Anglo. My father's name is Mills, which is very Anglo. I look a lot like my grandmother, and I look a lot like my father, as oddly as it is. If you were to put a picture next to my grandmother, you'd be like, yeah, that totally looks like you. And if I was to do that with my father, you'd be like, wow, yeah, that totally looks like you. Unfortunately, I think I've got my mother's ailments between bad lungs and bad eyes, and, you know, God bless her, love her to death. I need these questions answered, and I'm so late in the game, you know, in my midlife, as they say, and I would like to know. The name Kyriazis is very Greek, and I don't know. That being said, the test takes around 2 months, so we're looking at late October, and we'll be able to go over the graph and the chart and all of that stuff to see what I am. And I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to answer so many questions for me, and yeah, so yeah. So it's the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. I had 4 days off, and out of the 2 of them, I was able to do a bunch of research. The Ancestry DNA app gives you the option of actually connecting to the Ancestry.com app, and you're able to build a tree. From what I already had, I was able to go back pretty far. The Kyriazis name, that's my surname, that's what's in question. That's what makes me want to do the research. So using my father's lineage, the Mills McWilliams line, and then my mother's mother, which is the Edwards Dean line. Both are of Southern American descent. My father is from Kentucky, and my grandmother on my mother's side was born and raised on Lookout Mountain, Georgia. So needless to say, I was able to find some birth certificates, some death notes, federal census, and war pensions. Both World Wars, the Civil War. I found a relative that had the rank of captain in the state of South Carolina for the War of Yankee Aggression. Fascinating stuff. It was such a great weekend to find, all these little nuggets of my family. It's amazing. I found a picture of my great-great-grandfather. John Obadiah Obi Mills, and it was awesome to find that. I couldn't believe it, to be able to look him in the face, and we're talking, the mid-1800s. Pretty cool.
I'm at work right now, as you can tell. I just got a notification that my results might be in a month early. How great is that? So excited. It's September 11th, 2019. And I got my results back a few days ago. And I meant to make a video, but I'm still processing everything. I'm not Greek. 84% English, Welsh, and 16% Ireland and Scotland. Nowhere near the Greek Isles. My mom had an idea of who my grandfather was, and all she really had was a few phone numbers and a name. And Ancestry.com has a through lines feature, and without putting the name in the system, my DNA markers linked me to him. My mind is blown right now. His name popped up, and I probably looked like I was watching, a car crash. Yeah. I think it's safe to say I found my grandfather. Major validation here. With the through lines, I'm able to connect to my father's DNA lineage, and I'm finding fourth and fifth grandfathers on the Mills side. I'm not gonna lie to you when I tell you, whoever's watching this, that this is probably the best gift I've ever got.
So it's pretty early in the morning on a Saturday, and I think I found my revolutionary hero. So my father's great-grandfather, John Obadiah Mills, looking back at my notes here, his grandmother's father, no, his mother's father, so his grandfather, Obadiah Jefferson Hammond. So that's where that Obadiah comes from. He must have been named after his grandfather. Born in 1756 and died in 1849. And he's recognized as a Revolutionary War veteran. So this is just a paper trail, but to prove that I'm related to this man might be tough. Besides this paper trail, and I don't know if that even counts, for me to register as a son of the Revolution. Blood's blood, right? But I wonder if, what are the rules? It's something I need to look up, something I need to research. This is, every time I dig, it just gets more addicting and obsessive. I love it so much. This is awesome. It's so cool. Tomorrow, I'm going to my mom's, and I've got a separate. I've got a separate page of just the Marchbanks names, and I was able to go back to my 5th grandfather. And when you go back that far, the birth records and stuff are very touch and go, very iffy. And it looks like this man was born in 1760 or 70 and died in 1806. Stephen Perry Marchbank Sr. Pretty cool. Can't wait to show her this stuff. So I just got back from my mom's. I want to do this now while it's still kind of fresh, sitting in my vehicle in front of my house. And it was cool to be able to show her validation of some things, some of these questions that needed to be answered. It was cool to see my stepfather engaged and interested in it too, because he knows that this is something that we've kind of wrestled with for a long time. And
it can be, well, it can be emotional. Sure, of course it can. But this weekend in particular, you know, I kind of had a weekend, and, you know, so my brain is kind of like scattered everywhere, you know, and to kind of shut all that off and sit down with my mother and, you know, show her some of these things that I found, was awesome. So fucking awesome. You know, to know that, to show her that I was able to go back as far as 1730 in Virginia and have it say have it not say United States of America, you know, that it said Virginia, colonial America. You know, I mean, it kind of, I don't know. I know my brain popped when I seen that. It was just like, there you are, you know. And, you know, and her eyes were just like, really, you know, kind of vibe. Yeah. I don't know how far back I can go. You know, we're talking fifth generations, you know, like great grandfathers, you know. And after a while, like I've said before, federal census and birth records and death notes, and, you know, it gets touch and go. It gets very iffy, I think is the word I used. And, you know, when you have validation from the late 1800s, if I'm not mistaken, to know that, you know, Mr. Hammond was recognized by the United States of America of being a Revolutionary War veteran. It's pretty cool. So cool. Beyond cool. You know, to know that the blood in my veins, the blood in our veins, meaning me and my mother, you know, somebody down the line built this country. That's still young. It's everything. Once I found my grandfather, that was my next step, you know, and I did it. And I just got to prove it. So, my next step is to research the United States Sons of the Revolution membership and see what it takes to be a part of that. I feel like that's something I want to do, you know. I felt like a mutt for so long and not knowing where I came from or what I was, and, you know, to have a name so complex like Karyazis and it be so Greek, and it turns out I'm not even Greek. It's kind of a lot to take in. These last 4 weeks have been crazy. This is crazy.
having a bit of a moment. So I brought home these pictures that from my grandmother. I brought home pictures of my grandmother and her family that my mom had collected, and I'm going through these, and I came across this note. That's in her handwriting. Whew, this is hard. It wasn't this hard before until I found this note. It's to me. Oh, this is a picture of your great-grandfather and great-grandmother, Jeff Edwards and Minnie Mae Dean. Treasure all of this, son. You may need it someday. I didn't expect it to hit me this hard. To be 48, and still miss her so much. It's a note to me. This is hard. I didn't expect it to be this hard to go through these. My mom didn't tell me this was in there. And treasure all of this, son. You may need it someday. I love you, Nanny. Ooh, wow. Fucking wow. That really just hit me really hard. Yeah. So I'm a little under the weather. Stayed home from work. And so I decided to start to go through the Sons of the American Revolution membership. And there's a lot to go through. There's a lot. I knew there was going to be annual dues, and it's actually not too bad. I thought it would be more, to be honest with you. I can't believe that I've got this far to being able to register for the SAR. Yeah, my mind is still kind of blown about all this stuff. So, going through the tree and trying to find matches is ongoing. I've come across 4 Nesby Mills, and what's confusing is because, I don't know, maybe it's because it's the rural area, but once again, the census and birth records kind of just dead end. My research shows that there's son after son named Nesby, and I think there's 4 of them. But when you put one in, the rest of them kind of come up, so it gets convoluted because of the name being the same. You know, and then you have the wives, the female's name of Mary, and you know, till this day, you could literally throw a rock off my porch and probably hit a Mary. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Go to Kentucky, I guess. Look through records there. Physical pieces of paper. Talk to somebody. I don't know. I think I'm as far as I can go by myself. The name Mills reached England in the Great Wave of migration following the Norman conquest of 1066. The Mills family lived at or near a mill, having derived from an Old English word, mylen, M-Y-L-E-N, which meant mill. Wow. Now get this. The Mills name was first found in Hampshire. However, one branch of the family was found at Barford in Warwickshire since early times. Under the chancel in the Church of Bedford is a vault for the family of Mills, to members of whom are 5 urns on pedestals in the chancel wall. Now, through my DNA, I'm 84% English. I wonder if those are my people. I certainly can't take a trip to England. But it's interesting. 1066. 1066. Wow. It's a long time ago. Yeah. So the Edwards name patronymic. Is a patronymic surname. Patronymic. I'll have to look that up. Edwards is a patronymic surname meaning son of Edward. It derives from the early medieval English given name Edward, meaning son of or prosperous guardian. In Old English, it's actually split. And it's spelled Eadward. Ed, Ead, prosperity of fortune, and ward meaning guard. So the meaning prosperous guardian. Some sort of soldier, maybe? Once again, finding English roots on both sides of my family, my father's and my mother's. Which isn't surprising because of my DNA. All the markers, like I said before, 84% English Wales and 16% Irish and Scottish. But that 16%, I don't know, everything keeps going back to England. So I'm no longer hung up on that 16% Irish and Scottish. Turns out, my mother's father, recently found mother's father, mind you, has the surname of Marchbanks. And when I looked up the meaning of a name, and kind of going through all these surnames that make up my lineage, Marchbanks is Scottish. A variant of the surname Marchbanks, which, according to Black, was adopted by a family previously known as Johnston. And side note, Johnston and Johnstone are actually kind of touch and go. It's interchangeable, I guess, depending on the records from back then, Previously known as Johnston, when in early 16th century they acquired the lands of Ratho Margery Banks and Renfrewshire. This is where it gets interesting. This estate was also called from having been bestowed on Robert the Bruce's daughter Marjorie on her marriage in 1316 to Walter the High Steward. Now that's damn cool. So now going through all these surnames that are connected to me, I found Scottish heritage on my father's side as well. So this is crazy because my mom and my father both have English blood and Scottish blood. My father's family is Mills McWilliams, and it says here, first found in on the Isle of Harris, where they held a family seat from early times, and their first records appeared on the early census taken by the early kings of Scotland. The hardy Scots, who made the crossing, settling all along the east coast of North America, and even in the Great West that was just opening up. At the time of the American War of Independence, many United Empire loyalists, moved north from the colonies to Canada. Examination of immigration records and passenger ship lists revealed that people bearing the name McWilliams arrived in North America very early. Now, I found a name very interesting to me. Of interest, I should say. Archibald McWilliams, South Carolina, 1772. So, those are the earliest records. And that's, right there in the middle of the Revolutionary War. I think I'm going to look into this man. This brave man who not only took a boat across the pond, as they say, to come to a country that was, at the time, I'm sure some of the world was just probably thought we were eating ourselves. My sister down south had shared a Facebook page with me, and it's a Hydra, Kentucky heritage page, and so I've been kind of sharing some of my photos and some of my research I've been doing on there, and somebody had posted a picture of my grandmother, my father's mother, Vivian Josephine, from 1942, and I just can't stop looking at it. It's such a cool photo. So I got an alert this morning from my Ancestry app, and my 7th great-grandmother, Mary Mills, born 1717, her father was Joseph Weary, and her mother was Grace Weary. And Joseph Weary was born in 1672 in Devon, England, and made the trip to America. And so that's England, right? England. This is great. Unfortunately, looking at his death certificate, he died a year after his daughter was born, which is sad. He died in 1718. This is great. Everything goes back to England.